Creating professional looking documents does not have to be difficult, but it does take a critical eye. At this stage, when you're learning to create documents, it is important to pay attention to detail, whether it be spell check, the spacing on the page, or alignment of your work. It is critical. Many of you have experienced working with MLA, and MLA requires that you have certain specific formatting things take place. So today, when we work on this demonstration, hopefully you'll learn to use the tools that will assist you. So first of all, want to look at our ribbon again, and what we're going to work on specifically are tabs. And you may remember that you are always using the tab key. Tab stands for tabulary stop. And a tab, and that's all we'll call them, it is a temporary margin. So if you want to align some text like a list of names, addresses, and phone numbers, you can align those in perfect columns, and it's easy to do just with a few simple steps. So as one tool that you will need, and as I hope you get used to it and will continue to use it consistently, is the ruler bar. To access your ruler bar, you need to go to the View tab, and in View, go to the Show group, and we want to show our ruler bar. So we'll click the ruler bar. If you notice, the ruler comes up at the top of your page and down the left-hand side of your page. So it allows you to see exactly where you are in relationship to whatever you're putting on the page. So first of all, you need to know the size of your paper. In this case, our standard sheet of paper is 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches long. And if you look carefully, this gray area at the top is a 1-inch left margin, and on the right, a 1-inch right margin. And when you take those 2 inches and add it to the 6.5 here, the typing area, that gives you an 8.5-inch piece of paper. Same thing on the vertical length. You have a 1-inch top margin, a 1-inch bottom margin, and in between we have 9 inches. This is not marked as 9, but it ends at 9 inches, begins at 0, and when you add 9 plus the 2 inches of built-in margin, you have an 11-inch sheet of paper. So that the margins can be changed easily, and usually we do that for the entire document, but on occasion it'll only be for part of the document. We'll look at that later. But it is critical to see this ruler bar. So as I said, we're going to be working with the tab keys. If you strike your tab key, you'll notice it jumps in, and a lot of people think it jumps in 5 spaces. Good intentions, good rule, but that assumes that everybody's using the same size font. So instead of indenting 5 spaces, it actually indents a 1/2 inch. So every time I hit the tab key, you'll note that it indents a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to bring that back. So the intention for tabs is to do more than just indent our paragraphs. So we can actually set tabs and take away the default temporarily while we execute whatever other exercise we want to do. So I want to practice today. Setting the tabs does require the ruler bar, and all we do is point with our mouse up on the ruler bar, just a little bit below the number, the mark, whatever it might be, and we click. And I'm going to click right under the 1, and it gives me a tab marker. I'm going to do it again at 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. And so now I no longer have a 1/2 inch tab. When I hit my tab key, it'll jump into each of these 4 spots that I set. Okay, so since I've set tabs, I wanted to practice tabs and using tabs. And to do that, I'm going to start with a tab key. Doesn't mean you always start the very first line indenting, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to type a series of colors. You see that in an example I gave you. Um, and when I get to the end of the line, I'm going to hit an enter and I'm going to keep going. Some of our favorite colors here. One more row here. And it doesn't matter what order I'm doing this, I'm just pulling some colors out to just get a series of colors and practice our skill here. And let's see, as I run out of colors, let us go with teal. And maybe I'll do apricot. Okay, my lines, these columns are pretty even. What I do want to have you take note of is that the fact that everything is aligned at the left and perfectly aligned. Each one, the first column starts at 1 inch. When I click up here, you see it makes a line. When I click here, I try to get right on that tab, and it shows that everything's aligned at the left, and that's the norm for what we do. We typically align at the left. And so as I look at it, there's some other things I want to look at. I'm looking at the white space, and since this is an activity where we're doing it horizontally, I want to look at exactly, how much white space do I have between columns? Are they similar? Is this one narrower from turquoise to orange than from orange to black or from yellow to purple? And you see some, if you look carefully, you should see some slight variations. When I looked at my left margin looks narrower than my right margin. And I'm always using the longest word to go from there. From cardinal to the end is much longer than it is from the beginning of my list to the word blue, turquoise, gold, or magenta. So instead of retyping this and wondering, oh no, where in the world should I be set? I can adjust my tabs. That you must select your entire table, the text. Notice I'm not getting any white space above in my selection or below. I'm just selecting exact text. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start moving the text around. And to do this, I'm going to go up and grab the margin marker I want to move. And I'm going to go maybe around 5 inches for now. Now I've got an issue, don't I? Maybe I won't go quite that far, but we'll look at that in a minute. But I'm going to adjust now a little bit, looking at white space between my columns and seeing what I think. All right, we already have a much more balanced look on the page. Similar white space, maybe a little wide here, and similar margins, although not identical. So the ruler helps me check that. From my left edge of the paper, there's 1 inch, and from my margin marker to my first tab, there's another inch. So I've got a 2-inch left margin. Let's check the right hand side. From 7.5, it goes to 6.5, there's 1, and then 5.5 would be 2 inches. So I think what I want to do is select this and remove that 5-inch tab in just a little. It does not need to be exact. So literally using our eye to see what we think. I think I'm going to move the 3-inch. I'm going to move it in a little bit. So there, it's not too bad. And so each of these marks on your ruler is 1/8 of an inch. And so that helps you plan where you want to have your settings. So as you can see, from the original to this point, we've made a major change. So let me back it up so you can take a look. There we were at the beginning. Not very good use of the page. To where we are now. gets us where we are. So that's our first little set of practice. After I finish an exercise like this, maybe I've been typing a paper for an English class, insert a table of information, and then I want to continue with my normal typing, so I hit my enter key once or twice in this exercise will do it. And I don't want these tabs any longer, but I do not want to lose them up in my exercise. So I make sure that my insertion point is below the work, and then I literally go up, grab my tab with my left mouse button, and pull it down off the page. And so where I'm at right now, there are no tabs set, except for the default. I'll show you. The default tabs are back. Okay, and I do not want those. So next thing I want to look at is this button over here. It's called your tab selection button, and there's more than one style of tab. There's a left tab. When you hover your mouse, you'll see that. This upside down T, a center tab. This backwards L is a right tab. This upside down T with the dot is a decimal tab. This is called a bar tab, and it literally puts a little bar at the left edge before you type whatever text or numbers. Then we have margin markers, and you see those here. We'll talk about those later. Another margin marker, and back to left tab. So for this exercise, I'm going to set a left tab at 1/2 inch, and I'm going to set a center tab at about 3 inches. And if I don't get it exactly where I want, I can grab it and slide it. And a right tab, let's set it at 5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to begin, and this one, when you're practicing it, it'd be great to practice, and it's fun to do with just kind of breakfast, lunch, dinner. So we had cereal for breakfast, and pizza for lunch, and steak for dinner, and we had pancakes, and a sandwich, and chicken, and let's have yogurt, and let's have a salad. I think a yogurt is wrong. And for dinner, let us have spaghetti. And one more set here, let's have scrambled eggs. And soup. And for dinner, let us have lasagna. All right, so that just gives you an idea. So first of all, I want to look at the placement on the page. We have a left tab on our first column, a center tab. Notice the alignment when I click on that is right down the center of the word, and the right tab is down the right edge. So these both serve purposes. So I need to, as you can clearly see, my white space isn't good. This left margin is narrower than the right margin. So I'm going to select this table and no extra space, and I'm going to drag in. I'm going to drag it in like that. And I just did a little math in my head on this. If I am typing on 6.5 inches from here, 0 to 6.5, I know that half of 6.5 is 3.25. And so for this one, if I set my tab, my center tab, at 3.25, I'll be exactly in the center place, center point of the page. So the middle of these the middle, I have to get to the right spot. The middle of this tab should come right down the center of pizza. Okay, our placement isn't bad, and in our next lesson we will look at some other things and a few other tab settings.